Peace. Good morning, family. How you doing? It's Mr. R2 here at Consistency is Currency. Your morning podcast of choice. I just want to say good morning to you. Today is Wednesday, November the 9th. It is after um, voting is over. Voting was yesterday. The polls were yesterday. I haven't even checked to see who won. I'm sure it's all over the news, all over social media. Peace. Good morning, Miss Selena. She here 2 times. She's here 2 times in a row. But nah, good morning to you. I definitely appreciate you for being here and being back. For everybody that watches right now, I thank you. For those who's going to be watching on a replay or listening on the podcast and the distribution, whether you're on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, where else we at? Spotify, Anchor, Podbean. So wherever you like to listen to it, just make sure you check it out because this is what we do. We want to tap into resources. Peace, Miss Myrick. How you doing? Just today is a new day. Today is a new day for you. But what we're going to be talking about today is leave a note. So as you see the question that is proposed right here, have you ever left yourself a note? Miss Queenie, how you doing? She in with her stage name, Jim with the Gems. Miss Queenie, how you doing? So again, the question that is proposed, that's right, where is that? Right here. Can you see that? Have you ever left yourself a note? That's a question that I'm looking for an answer for from you. Have you ever left yourself a note? Go ahead, put it in there. All right, she says she's fantastic. Let's go ahead and take off. Let's tap into today's understanding of what we're going to be talking about, which is leave a note. Miss Scott, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. I pray that your morning is a blessed morning. We're just happy to be on this side of the dirt. The other side of the dirt, you can't do anything. She said, yes, I have left notes for myself a lot. She said 50 times. She left 50 notes for herself. But yeah, let's go. All right. Like always, you're going to get definitions of words, etymologies, which there is no etymology today. You're going to get definitions, etymologies, and then we're going to go into inversions of definitions. Again, like always, if I say red over white, you're focusing on the words that are in red. If I say white over red, you're focusing on the words that are in white. And those words that are in white or those words that are in red, write down how you see it or comment how you see it. You ready? All right, I'm ready. Let's go. All right, note. The first definition of note, it says a short informal letter or written message. A short informal letter or written message. I was trying to see which way I want to flip. All right. So what we're going to do, we're going to go red over white. Of course, grammatically, it will be and because there's a vowel after a. A informal message. A informal message. And how I see that is a lot of times we try to get so formal with how we say what we say or how we send or how we talk to ourselves. You don't need to be all formal about it because a lot of times you just need to be real, right? You just need to be so real with yourself. I don't care if there's grammatical errors. I don't care if it's a complete run-on sentence. I don't care if you have no punctuation anywhere in a statement with what you're saying because you're leaving that letter to you. You don't get a grade for the letter that you leave for yourself because the letter that you're leaving for yourself can be informal and it's okay. You don't have to leave the same letter that I left, or you don't have to leave the same letter that somebody else told you to write, but leave that informal letter for you. Leave that message for you, because you're the one that's going to read it when it's time to be read, or you're the one that's going to need it when it's time for that need to be met, because that needs to be met might be from the letter that you wrote to yourself. We want to write notes to ourselves that sound so eloquent and sound so nice. Like, I don't care about that. I don't need to leave a letter just for you to read and try to grade, and you try to say, well, you know that you're missing an I, or you're missing a T, or you didn't cross that T, or you didn't dot that I. Who cares? You shouldn't care, because it's not being graded. Write the letter for you. And it doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't even have to be, well, I need to write my letter in the morning so I can read it by the afternoon. Like, it doesn't matter when you write it, but are you writing it for you? That's all that matters. Leave that note. And the second definition of note is notice or pay particular attention to. Notice or pay particular attention to. And the inversion on this is white over red. So pay particular attention to. And how I see that is when you're writing these things to yourself, about yourself, for yourself, pay attention to how you feel when you're writing it. Pay attention to like we spoke about this past day, what experiences are you learning from, or what experiences have you felt when the lessons were learned? Like, pay attention to those lessons that you're writing down. Pay attention to how you felt when you read that letter that you wrote to yourself yesterday. Because if you don't pay attention to it, then it's not really a lesson. Because the attention should be focused on ensuring that the lesson that you wrote down is not something that you're going to fall victim to tomorrow, or fall victim to previously. But if you do find yourself falling victim to what you wrote down that you wasn't going to do, pay attention to the time that you wrote it. Like, you know what, I was feeling like this way, so maybe that's why I didn't learn that lesson. I didn't learn that lesson because I wasn't even honest with myself when I wrote it. I didn't learn that lesson because I wasn't even in a place of peace when I wrote it. So therefore the turmoil came only because the lesson wasn't learned, or when I wrote it to myself, the note wasn't, I tried to write the note so beautifully and so elegantly, but the time that I was living in at that time didn't match what I tried to write. So therefore I don't even understand my own note today. Have you ever been in that space to where you you wrote something and you're trying to figure out what it said? Like, man, I don't even know what I was writing. That's because you try to write it and it wasn't you. You didn't even pay attention to what needed to be what note needed to be taken. Like, have you noticed, as you see in the definition, notice, have you noticed, like, what emotions did you carry when you wrote that note to you? Like, that emotion that you probably had at that time could be carried over if you didn't pay attention to the attention that needed to be paid attention to. And the next definition of note, it says, remark upon, typically in order to draw someone's attention to it. Like, you're writing a note just so you ensure that you are paying attention to it because you wrote it on purpose. So the inversion that we're talking about here is red over white. Remark typically to draw attention to. Now, remark is to say something about something, um, like you're leaving your final remarks, like you're saying something about something. So the red over white is remark typically to draw attention to. And for me, when I'm looking at this, because the note that you're leaving, typically you want to what? You want to draw attention to it, like writing that, whatever. Like, now I haven't seen it in a long time. I remember it, like back in the day when your mama used to leave a note on the refrigerator for you to do this thing that she wanted you to have done before your homework, or wanted you to have done before she came home from work, or before your father came home from work. You had to have these chores done, and those notes were written for checks and balances, to make sure you understood the assignment and to make sure that the assignment was complete. So typically you can use that as a reference. And I say that to say that your note actually leaves breadcrumbs for you to always to revert and go back to say, you know what, I have been in this space before. And you're sitting here trying to, like, that's like that deja vu. You're like, oh man, like, oh, you know what? I know why I feel this way, because I remember being in this space before. And you can go back and look at those notes, or go back into that space or that headspace and revert back to when you wrote that note, because you have gone or came out of that particular place before. I want to let you know that you can get back up again, because you've been here. You've been there before. Those notes that you leave could be the door that you're opening for you to walk through tomorrow. Because what you typically want to write notes that you're going to what? Pay attention to. It's not for somebody else to pay attention to. The note that you leave is for you to pay attention to. And not worrying about what somebody else said that you said, but what did you say to you? Did you do what was required of you to do by ensuring that the note that you wrote was typically for you? And the last definition of note that we're going to look at today, it says a brief record of facts, topics, or thoughts written down as an aid to memory. And the inversion on this is red over white. A brief record of facts, or thoughts, and aid to memory. A brief record of facts, like, and the reason why that is that we're communicating about a brief record of facts, like, I don't want you to write down things that are not true, because if you write those things down that are not true, don't you realize it is not true? Then you're going to believe it, and then it's not going to be helpful for you when you really need it. But write down the factual things, like, I'm brave, I'm smart, I'm blessed, I'm gifted, I'm talented, I have purpose. You're writing down brief record of facts and the thoughts, and it's going to aid to your memory. Like, I know that I can do it, because I remember when I was down, I wrote this note. And I told myself to get up. So the next time you found yourself down, you look across to your left and to your right. That note says get up. You're like, bam, I know what it's like to get up, because I know what it was. I know what I felt like when I was down. I know the thoughts that I had when I was down. I wrote these brief facts that I can get up. And those things that you wrote when you were in that particular place, it's going to aid to your memory that you can do it again. It's going to aid to your memory that resiliency has to set in order for you to bounce back, in order for you to have the amount of energy that you need to duplicate that process. Because why? You wrote a note, you left a note to yourself. It's like where we are right now in our space. It's like saying like a note to self. Yeah, sometimes you're gonna have to write a note to self. You're gonna have to record things that is going to help you memorize. You're gonna have to read those notes to take you back to where you come from, to let you know where you come from. So let's take this dive, right? We know things get hard. Like we know it. It's tribulations are the inevitable. The inevitable, but how we respond to them then becomes our responsibility. And we know things get hard, but we need to also find out what will work for us. Like, what type of message are we going to send to us? What type of note are we going to uh, write for ourselves, to ourselves, about ourselves? Because that note that we write to ourselves, about ourselves, for ourselves, is the note that we're leaving for our future selves. Stop worrying about who's leaving you notes and write yours. Because it says that a legacy is what? A legacy is is giving someone that a valued treasure like by you long after your death, or making an impact that will last um long after you live. Don't you know that's like the same thing as leaving a note for yourself, like leaving a legacy of the things that you have accomplished uh to you, about you, for you. So what legacy are you leaving yourself? You have made plenty of accomplishments. And those accomplishments that you have, or those tasks or those goals that you have completed, don't you know those goals that you have completed actually leaves legacy for your tomorrow, or leaves a legacy for you next year? The actions that you're taking right now, that's still legacy building, but it's building legacy for you. Like if you had a financial goal that you wanted to have completed by December, and here it is now, November, all the things that you have saved up for yourself, you're leaving a legacy for whatever the goal that you want to accomplish for next year, because you've done it this entire time this year. It's leaving a legacy, but it's for you. It's not, there's nothing selfish about leaving a legacy for yourself, or leaving notes for yourself to inform yourself that I can do this again because I've already done it. Like, what notes will you leave for yourself long after the good times die? Because we know there's high days where we're on a high and everything is good, and everything is great, and we're happy, we're smiling. It's 92 degrees or 88 degrees, and the wind is blowing, the birds is chirping. All that is good, but what happens when all that goes away? What happens when the clouds roll in and the rain begin to come, or the ice storm hits? Like, what legacy will you live for your future you, to tell your future you that you've done it before and you can do it again? Like, what note will you leave for you? Far too often we leave notes for everybody else, but we forgot that we know how to read. Like, hey, I know how to read too. So let me read my notes that I left for myself to tell me that I got it. Like, leave your own notes on your refrigerator, not physically, but if you do, that's you. Cool. Leave your own notes on your refrigerator, remind you that you're great. Leave your own notes on your in your bathroom to affirm that healing takes time. Because leaving notes actually gives you an opportunity to live for a purpose that's bigger than the mess that you find yourself in. Looking at that note and saying, you know what? If this gives me an opportunity to change the way I feel right now, then I'm going to leave this note because I know I might need it tomorrow. Oh, I know I might need it when there are no longer good days. I might need to revert back to this note. Like, remember, like, to take notes in school, and you be like, oh man, I can't remember, but I know I took a note. I know I took notes. And you get all excited, you flipping through your notebook, and then when you find that note, you be like, bam, got it. I'm glad I remembered. Tap into your memory. Tap into that note that you left. Leaving that note is like your hall pass. It's like your hall pass to healing, your hall pass to success, your hall pass to prosperity, your hall pass for your tomorrow. Just by merely understanding like where you are right now and where you're about to go. So leave a note, because the note that you leave for you today could definitely be the note that you're going to need to read to yourself tomorrow. Whoever that was for, it was for you. Whoever received that, receive it. It's okay to write notes. It's okay to write in your journal. It's okay to journal. Like, I have a notebook like right next to me right now. I write notes, like for real, for real. I write it down. So I want to make sure that I don't forget it, because when I need it the most, I can always go back and refer to my notes. Like, what did you say to you during this time? Like writing notes are okay. That's the breadcrumbs for you to always to go back and figure out where you're going for tomorrow. So leave a note. All right, I appreciate y'all for being here. I'm Mr. R2 here at Consistency is Currency, your morning podcast of choice. Write down your takeaways, like what resonated with you the most. Write those down, put it inside the chat. I'll go back, I'm gonna read it, so I can learn from you as well. But y'all be blessed. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, half day through the week, but you got it. Peace.